ਇੱਕ ਵਰਚੁਅਲ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਨਿਆਂ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਡੇਵਿਡ ਲਮੇਟੀ ਨੇ ਕਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟਾਂ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਇੱਕ ਨੂੰ ਉਜਾਗਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਜੋ ਸੰਘੀ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਸਵਦੇਸ਼ੀ ਕਾਨੂੰਨ ਸੰਸਥਾਵਾਂ ਦੀ ਸਥਾਪਨਾ ਸੰਬੰਧੀ ਕਾਰਵਾਈ ਲਈ ਕਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਸੱਦੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਕਸਾਰਤਾ 'ਚ ਫੰਡ ਦੇ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਲਮੇਟੀ ਨੇ ਮਿਸਟੀਸਨੀ ਗਵਰਨੈਂਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਜੈਕਟ ਦਾ ਸਮਰਥਨ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ 4 ਸਾਲਾ ਸੰਘੀ ਫੰਡਿੰਗ 'ਚ ਲਗਭਗ $5 ਲੱਖ ਦੀ ਘੋਸ਼ਣਾ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੀ।
These funds are supporting many innovative and exciting projects that are putting CTA 50 into action across Canada, which brings me to our announcement today. I'm pleased to highlight funding of close to $500,000 over 4 years to support the Mistissini Governance Project, which will revitalize Cree legal principles and traditions within their community, as Chief Neposh has described. The project will support the integration of Inuit legal principles and values into a series of fundamental governance laws that will be applied across their entire territory. The Cree Nation of Mistissini will work closely with elders, tallymen, land users, and other community members to gather stories, teachings, perspectives, and practices. This exercise will ensure that Inuit values, traditions, and teachings are integrated into the laws to be developed. And you heard much of that from Chief Neposh in that wonderful overview. And it was fun as a former law professor to have had your class this morning, Chief Neposh. It was lovely. We all know that a critical part of advancing reconciliation involves transforming the relationship between Indigenous peoples and the justice system. The need to do that is clear. Indigenous peoples have experienced and continue to experience systemic and individual acts of racism and discrimination at all stages of Canada's justice system. They continue to be tragically overrepresented in the criminal justice system as victims, as survivors, as accused, and as convicted. Indigenous people are rightfully calling for change and for greater control over their lives and their communities. This includes revitalizing and restoring Indigenous laws and legal traditions. There is important work underway on this front that our government is directly supporting. Guiding us along this pathway are the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls of action. Many of these calls to action relate to the need for fundamental changes to ensure true justice and equity for Indigenous peoples. Among them is Call to Action 50. Call to Action 50 calls upon the Government of Canada to collaborate with Indigenous peoples to revitalize their legal systems and to fund Indigenous law institutes for the development, use, and understanding of Indigenous laws, in accordance with the unique cultures of Indigenous peoples in Canada. We are confident that this funding will help the community as they take on the sometimes challenging but vital work of revitalizing legal systems. This project today is one of many concrete actions we're taking to advance reconciliation. It includes our work to implement the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, which we are doing in full partnership with First Nations, Inuit, and the Métis. To get there, we will develop together an action plan to achieve the Declaration's objectives. In December, my department called launched a call for proposals to support Indigenous participation in this process and to support Indigenous-led consultations.